Oh, boy, I'm sure you guys got nothing to ask me about today. I'm sure you're curious to find out how many points we're going to average per game this year and all the other nice stuff that you guys spend a lot of time trying to figure out what to ask me about. A couple things. I usually don't try to control press conferences because it's my job to answer your questions, not for me to tell you what to do. But today I am, because we're going to separate this two ways, okay? I'll speak about the obvious things that, guys, know that's what you guys want to talk about. It's not what I want to talk about. And then whenever you're bored with whatever questions you guys have so carefully come up with, then we can talk about what I want to speak about, which is our basketball team. Is that fair? So we can separate the two issues because they're two different things, okay? Let's deal with what's happened here over the past, 7, 8 days or whatever it's been. I think you guys been around me for a while now. I'm not a prepared statement kind of guy. I am who I am. I don't hide. I don't run. I don't pretend. And I don't give you the answers that you want to hear. I'm going to give you the answers that I feel is the truth. And I've made a decision in my life to coach at the University of South Carolina. And I made that decision 5 years ago. And if I chose to, I probably could have left this past spring. But I made a decision to stay. And the decision to stay, to be a part of this university, had very little to do with winning basketball games. It had to do with the people that I work with and work for. I work for one of the finest human beings that I've ever come across in Ray Tanner. I think Ray Tanner, you guys have covered him a lot longer than I've known him. I'd like to think that the one thing you know that he won't do after being around him for 22 years is he's not going to cut corners, okay? So he's not going to, he don't care how many games we win. He don't care if we go to 10 consecutive Final Fours. I don't think cutting corners is anything that he's ever going to sacrifice or embrace in any way, shape, or form. I think our president, Harris Bastides, is a man of tremendous character and a guy that leads our university with unbelievable integrity, and he's proactive to continue to make things better for the students that play sports at our school. And then the last guy is Chance Miller. Chance is the guy in charge of our compliance department. Chance is a star. Chance helps me do my job. Chance protects this university every day from overzealous, overeager coaches, whatever way you want to word it, okay? Because of individuals like them three, I chose to stay here because that's how I live my life. I'm a man of character. I'm a family man. Doesn't mean I haven't made mistakes, but I just believe in integrity. I don't believe in sitting here and saying one thing and then acting differently when you're not looking. It's not the way I'm cut. So with all that said, we've done a lot of good here in 5 years, outside of the obvious from last season. We've done a lot of good. And a week ago, while I was not shocked by what was reported, I was shocked by who was a part of the report. And that broke my heart. And, you know, I've known Lamont since he was a high school kid, gave him his break in this business, was around him as a non-recruiter, was around him as an assistant coach, and I can't tell you that those 48 hours after that news broke were good for me. And when I say they were not good for me, had nothing to do with the investigation. I don't, whatever you know about the investigation is what I know. Unless there's something there that I don't know, this university is not being investigated. Lamont Evans is being investigated. Frank Martin is not being investigated. Lamont Evans is being investigated. Our basketball program is not being investigated. Lamont is being investigated. And I got to be sent because of the sensitivity of ongoing FBI investigations. I hope you understand that there's some things that I'm not going to get into right now. When the time comes, I'll be more than happy to express whatever you want to ask me. But, you know, there's some things that if you ask questions, I'm not going to be able to go there on some things. But I can wholeheartedly tell you that we are not part in any way, shape, or form of this FBI investigation. Unfortunately, I can't say the same for Lamont. And so with that, we'll deal with the basketball questions when you guys get bored of my answers. And then my attitude will change a little bit because I really, 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 really like this basketball team. I'm as excited. I've been excited for the last 4 years. I'm just as excited as I was at any time in those 4 years right now from what I've seen from these guys. But we'll get to that eventually. So where's Kornbluth at? I figured he'd be the one guy with the great questions here today. You still asleep? He's trying to take that orange shirt he wears to press conferences off. That's what he's trying to do. Yeah, right. That's because he hasn't bought a new one since 1984.
You ready for questions, Frank?
Let's do it.
All right. Questions, back? Dave and Pete?
I hope I answered all your questions already on that topic, to be honest with you. But
Frank, when you've gotten around this team, have you even mentioned the term Final Four and about trying to get back there, or is that?
hold on. Does anyone have any questions? Because I'm not going backwards. When I start speaking about the team, I'm not going back to what I just spoke about. That's why I wanted to separate the two issues. If you guys want to ask me something, feel free. You're not going to hurt my feelings. Shoot, Joe asked me about getting fired my second year. So you're not going to hurt my feelings in any way.
I was prepared for you to say that.
It's Joe, come on. It wouldn't be normal if I didn't do that.
Frank, got to ask, in the report, the player number 3 at South Carolina, do you know who that was in reference to? Was it in reference to Sin? Was it in reference to PJ?
How do you know it's those two?
No, I don't.
That's, how do you,
Tim?
we haven't been told. You understand what I'm saying? I mean, Pete, what I'm trying to tell you is, if we were being investigated, I'd have that answer for you. But we don't have that answer because as they're going through their investigation, I'm sure they're doing some due diligence. And since we're not part of it, we're not privy to that information. So I'm sure we'll find out here in the near future sometime.
Frank, you said you weren't shocked. You weren't shocked that there was an investigation. You were shocked who was a part of the investigation. Why weren't you shocked about the actual investigation?
Any coach in this business that tries to act like they didn't know that there were some shenanigans going on, the way that it was reported, not being honest with you. And by the way, I'm not taking shots at other coaches' opinions. That's my answer. That's not in response to what other coaches say before anyone turns my quote to attack whatever some other coach said. Our business is not messed up, okay? There's how many recruiting coaches in Division I basketball? 1,400 between the assistants and the head coach? 4 out of 1,400 did something wrong. I don't view that as a problem in the business. But there were some stuff going on, and no one could put their finger on it, but we're in it. We know that there's some issues. You don't think there were issues in 1982 in recruiting? You don't think there were issues in 1992 in recruiting? You don't think there are issues in baseball recruiting? You don't think there are issues in football? There are issues anytime there's recruiting, there's issues, any walk of life. You're in the media. Are there some media personalities that don't do their business the right way? So should I judge you based on that guy? It's unfortunate, but it's out there. And so now, it's kind of been something that nobody ever wanted to touch, and now it's public information, and everyone's kind of taken a step back and said, wow. There's people, lives, their families, that are being affected by this. It's unfortunate. We're human beings. We make decisions. And sometimes we make the right decisions. Sometimes we make the wrong decisions. But our business is not messed up. I guess Coach K said something the other day that made a lot of sense. By the way, Cal, who gets credit for being the smartest guy in our business as far as being proactive, he stole what he reported from me. I'm the person that's the advocate, and I've been saying it for a long time, that we should allow these kids to receive compensation based on their likeness, on uniforms, on autographs, and as universities, we should control that. And what I have said is that part of our process in educating successful athletes that are going to make millions playing professionally is teach them how to be philanthropic. So we should take, like, for example, jerseys are being sold. And by the way, I always use offensive tackles because that's what I used to play. No one cares about the offensive tackle. So if no one wants to buy my jersey, that's my problem. That's not the university's problem. But if everyone wants to buy J.D. Clowney's jersey or Sendarius's jersey, more power to them. We'll create a fund. 30% of those the profits, 30% goes into a fund for the young man. 30% goes into the university, because last time I checked, fans have been coming to watch basketball here before Sendarius wore the uniform, and they'll keep watching it after he left, because the name on the front is very important to our fan base. So 30% goes to university, and obviously somebody makes it. 30% goes to that company. That leaves 10%. Tell the young man, pick a charity of your liking, and while you're in town, that 10% will go to that charity. So we're teaching them how to be philanthropic. And then the day they sign a professional contract or they get a degree without being convicted of a felony, they start life with a lot of money in their pocket. If they're J.D. Clowney. If they're me, they start life with debt. That's all right. That's the way most people start. But that way you're not creating preferential treatment for anybody. So Cal took that from me, but then he expounded on some things. And one of the things that we have done a real bad job of, we've created the situation that we're living right now, is we've separated our game from developing coaches. So we, like I grew up going to 5-star. I started as this 19-year-old just guy, had no idea how to coach. And I go work 5-star. And at 10 o'clock at night, I'm seeing Rick Pitino, Pete Gillen, Hubie Brown, Chuck Daly running stations, teaching kids how to play at 10 o'clock at night, holding no punches, and drilling kids on how to do things the right way. That's how I grew up. So I learned how to coach, which I think is what's allowed me to find success in this business. That's changed. We no longer teach coaches how to coach. We teach coaches how to get players. And I think that's what's gotten everyone in a little bit of a pickle here. But I don't know. I don't know if I answered your question, but that's why I'm not surprised. But at the same time, our business is not broke. College basketball is viewed more now than at any time in its history. The business is not broken. There's a lot more men of integrity that did not cross the line. And by the way, people that made mistakes doesn't mean they're bad. They made a bad decision. That don't mean they're bad human beings. They made a bad decision. Everyone in this room has made bad decisions in their life. They made bad decisions, and they're going to probably pay a price for it. But, at the end of the day, our business is phenomenal. Kids are benefiting. We're graduating players at a higher rate than any time in the history of college basketball. That means there's more successful people going into society. There's a lot of good in this business right now. We can't, I've read some of the stories, because I read. I don't read when people are celebrating. I read when there's storms, because when the storms come, people take sides. And I've read the side that most people that have reported on this topic, I've read what they've written, and they're trying to put all of us in the same box. And That's not right. If I start treating all the media members based on my opinions of a few, I would never answer any of your questions. So that's not fair for you guys to treat us coaches that way.
Coach, you kind of answered my question with your answer there a little bit, but with some of the public perception, kind of it is what it is right now. How do you think college basketball can maybe change its perception following this report, and do you think maybe there needs to be more transparency in the recruiting process, given what's just transpired? Do you feel it's just a few bag eggs, like you mentioned?
I don't kind of follow your question, Joe. When you say more transparency, you mean to tell me there's no transparency right now? Kids will tell you who calls, when they call, how many times. You know what I mean? If you want to know anything I do in recruiting, all you got to do is follow, I don't even know what it's called. And you get all my information.
You guys aren't allowed to talk about recruits at times, right? I'm saying is maybe there's more need for transparency as opposed to trying to hide who coaches are talking to at times, because you guys can't talk about recruiting and certain recruits at times.
You see, I got your point. Like, for example, like Cal brought up a great point, okay? In baseball, and maybe I'm wrong, if I am, stop me so I don't speak out of you-know-where. Families are allowed to have an agent as an advisor, okay? So it's above board. In our business, with the one-and-done rule, which absolutely stinks, okay? I've heard people say, don't blame the one-and-done rule. Of course you got to blame the one-and-done rule, because that means that agents are meddling with these kids in high school, and yet we're made to be the bad guys when they choose to come to college for decisions that they've made during high school, okay? We've created an environment because, like Kay said, everything has changed but our model. So we've created an environment where our rules don't work based on the way basketball, the landscape exists right now. I'm not anti-agent. They're trying to do a job. 2 years ago, I was completely against agents advising families. I've come the other side of that now. But I also think kids should go out of high school. I've never budged on that opinion. I think kids should have the right to declare out of high school, and if they want to take money from a shoe company, an agent, whoever, do it above board, do it the right way. Go be a pro. And if you make it, and if you don't, this is the United States of America, and it's what my life has taught me. When you fail, that's all right. No one's going to hold you down there. Dust yourself off, get up, figure out a different way to work. And you know, now it puts the onus on the people making the decisions and who they listen to. But as far as, I don't know, this is all going to change because of what just took place. I really think that finally we're going to get some change where it's needed, which is in our rules to protect the integrity of college athletics, because everything in college basketball, not athletics, excuse me, because everything around us has changed except us. I don't know the transparency. I mean, heck, they're going to let them transfer whenever they want. All they got to do is announce that they're going to transfer. That's what I'm being told. So why can't we comment on who we call? You know what I mean? I don't know, Joe. Maybe we need to put you on that board. I sit on the board. Let me tell you something. When they asked me to sit on the board of the NABC, they asked me, Frank, please, we're not putting you here because we need a guy. We're putting you here because you're willing to express yourself, and we need to have certain conversations. I've been in 2 meetings, and I've been very, very adamant about some of the things that I'm speaking to you about in these meetings. So, you know, we're all going to get better because of this. That's the one thing I have no doubt about, because I sit in that room with those men that lead college basketball, and we're all going to get better. There's a lot of good in our business. There's a lot more good than a couple mistakes here and there.
What, if anything, will this experience change about you as far as, you know, looking into guys more, just because of the fact that it is somebody you knew? Will it change the way you go about bringing people into your basketball program? How will that affect you?
It's not. That's always very important to me. If you get around anyone that knows me, you know what they'll tell you? Frank don't miss a beat. Anyone that lives with me, like people don't know me, think sometimes I'm not paying attention. They'll tell you Frank don't miss a beat. Frank knows where everyone stands at. Frank, I'm not into the majority, I shouldn't say majority, I'm not into the group that says, well, I didn't know. I work real hard for me to know every single day. Now, I don't live in people's houses. I live in my house. I'm not privy to conversations that take place when people are away from me. But I engage in conversations with everyone that I bring into my circle. The same way Pastides, Tanner, Chance, the people at this university have brought me into their circle and believe in me. That's the way I believe and work with the people that I bring into our organization. I could be wrong. I'm not going to go there because it involves a case, and I'm not going to get into details of that right now. But I've been a part of staffs that have been investigated, and after the investigation, what's come away is how honest we are and how much attention to detail we pay on everything we do, and that has not happened here. Okay, but that's why I was surprised when I saw Lamont's name, because I do pay attention. And I do engage in conversations with my staff on a regular basis because doing things right is so important to me. I haven't worked, I'm going to speak selfishly here. I have not worked so hard to overcome the odds to attain the job and the trust of the people that have employed me to circumvent it for a couple dollars. I'm not doing that. I'd rather lose working the right way than win taking any kind of shortcut. It's the way I'm cut, and I don't budge from that. So, am I going to change? I don't know. I don't know how I can change other than, let's use the situation of the players 2 years ago with the BB guns. That's on me. That was on me. I didn't pay enough attention to that situation that happened. That's solely on me. But when my staff and all that, and here's another part. We don't hire 18-year-olds now. We hire grown men. So they got to take ownership as grown men that they take care of their business too. We're not perfect in this world.
Hey Frank, this seems like a pretty simple question, but it's obviously a pretty complicated answer. How do you change the one and done rule at this point? Because it's become so popular.
I don't know why college basketball gets blamed for manipulating the one and done rule. Whose rule is that? The NBA. We have nothing to do with that rule. What are we going to do? Not recruit kids that are NBA good? Oh, no, we're not going to recruit them. Kids are not forced to come to college. But somehow we've created a conversation that we're taking advantage of them. How are we taking advantage of them? Majority of them end up having a better experience in college than they had before they got to college. The majority of them are a lot better when they're done with their experience in college than when they walked onto college. Do we have to continue to create ways and make it better because of how much they do for universities? Absolutely. But I've been a big advocate, and I've said this privately, I don't think I've ever said it publicly, we need to protect our sport. You know, if the NBA is not going to cooperate with college basketball the way Major League Baseball, football, all the other team sports, the way they cooperate by, women's basketball, keep going, hockey, then we need to maybe consider going back to freshmen ineligible and going back to 15 scholarships. That way those 8, 10, because that's what, it's not 150 kids. 7, 8, 9, 10 of them that are worthy of being one and dones, then they're not going to come to college. And you know what? Here's the part that I get a kick out of. Is college basketball better or worse than when Michael Jordan played in it? It's better for everybody. The athletes got it better. The coaches got it better. Universities got it better. More people watch it on TV. So how's that possible if it's all because of an athlete? How's that possible? How's it possible that the same kids that played with universities on their names and were all Americans played in front of 18, 19, 20, 22,000 people, sell out a football stadium for the Final Four? They go play in the D League, same player, and they play in front of 200 people. How's that possible? You know, so I've been a big advocate that if the NBA is not going to do a better job in communicating with us, see, if you let the kids go out of high school, then they can hire agents. They can take money. They can get paid. That's what they want. Go. I mean, do you think college basketball survived since LeBron James did not play in college? I think college basketball still okay, right? It's, you know, but that one and done rule has created a problem for us because we have to recruit those players, but there's some stuff going on before they get on our campuses. And it's only 8, 9, 10 of them. So I'd say make them ineligible. Then they don't come to college. But you know what? If they didn't have the one and done rule, they're not coming to college anyway. So why are we worried about it?
I don't mean just you specifically, but in general, there are a ton of coaches do things the right way and only a few bad apples that do things the wrong way. And I guess some of it's on the media too, but why not step forward and say, hey, they're doing whatever? Is it just as simple as nobody likes a snitch? Is that really what it would come down to?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not cut the, you know, I just spoke to our team about this, and not this situation, but about snitching. There's no such thing as snitching within your family. You snitch when you tell your family's business to people outside your family. That's snitching. Within your family, there's no such thing as snitching. Me personally, people want to risk their careers, the life that their families live, their assistants, the people on their staff and their families and their careers. If they're willing to risk all that, do what you got to do, man. In my experiences, the majority of them don't do that. I got a problem with negative recruiting. Like, you negative recruit against me, I confront you on the road. If I get facts that you're using negative recruiting tactics, you're speaking about me or South Carolina, I'm going to confront you on the road. That's me. I don't call offices and say, hey, look at him, look at, that's not what that's me. I can't speak for other coaches. That if you're willing to jeopardize your whole family and your career by doing some stupid stuff, it's just a matter of time, man. 9 out of 10 are going to get caught. Just a matter of time, you know. So that's why that doesn't bother me, because it's so few. If it was most of the people, then yeah, I can't beat everybody, so then I'd be calling everybody, saying, hey, man, But so few that doesn't bother me. Negative recruiting, no, that's a bad thing. See, because when you negative recruit, you're not impacting your family, you're impacting my family. And anytime you impact my family, my staff's family, my ability for my university to succeed, that's wrong. If you want to cheat, you're impacting your family and your university. That's your problem. You negative recruit, you're impacting mine. That's a problem. So that's my stance on that.
Frank, you said when
God,
you
you guys, like, good questions.
Well, I'll bring it back down. You said that when you saw Lamont's name, it broke your heart.
Mm-hmm. Still does, Pete.
Yeah. Have you reached out to him or his family since? And is any part of you angry that now you, guys you respect, Mike Boynton, Brad Underwood, you're all facing these kinds of questions because of Lamont's actions?
The answer to your first question is no. We have not spoken. The answer to your second question is yes. It's no different than when a family member does some stupid stuff. You know, one day, I shouldn't say I hope, but maybe one day I get to sit in front of my father and just ask him why. You understand what I'm saying? Sure. But I got to be ready for that day. And you know, I'm not ready for that day with Lamont right now. And because of the sensitivity of the case, I'm not going to engage in conversation conversations. I'm sure I can speak to him through third parties and all this nonsense, but I'm not doing that. I know him as a man. He knows me as a man. Our families know each other. When this passes, I'm sure he and I will sit down and figure out what happened. But no, I have not spoken to him. And then the second part, yes, I sleep like a baby, Pete. I'm just telling you. I go to bed at night, ever since this hit, and I sleep like a baby. But when I wake up, that's when I'm bothered, because it's one of my guys.
Any more questions?
And it's not one of my guys under my umbrella. It's like that child that goes to college and makes mistakes in college, not while he was living in my house. And that's what's frustrating to me.
Other than Manny, any more questions on this? Okay.
You already stated that you're not officially a part of the investigation, but have you been contacted or the university at all by the FBI at this point?
I like media. I really do. I really, really do. I just love it when you guys use great words to spin crap in whatever direction. What do you mean I already stated, and then you say not officially part? We're either part of the investigation or we're not. We have not been investigated. The investigation is on Lamont Evans. We're not being investigated. I'm not being investigated. You can't ask me, have we unofficially, what's that mean? You think the feds work on unofficial and official? The feds are black and white, brother. They either knock on your door or they don't.
No, there's a difference between an investigation and contact. They're not investigating you, but have they contacted?
Yeah, but that's not what you asked me.
I said, have you been?
No, you said unofficially. Has the feds contacted our university? I'm not the person to ask that question to. I believe the answer to that is yes, but I know what you know. That's how little information I got. But I can tell you, we're not part of the investigation, and neither am I. And I don't think I'm leaving any room for questions as far as that goes in any other way, shape, or form. Can that change? I don't know. But I tell you, as of right now, that's kind of where it's at.
All right, Dave?
Basketball? Jesus, now we get to have fun. All right, let me let my gloves down now.
Frank, since you've been around the guys in a team setting or individuals, have you mentioned Final Four to them? Have you mentioned last year's success at all?
No. They know. I don't need to tell them. And last year's success creates an unwritten positive peer pressure within our locker room. And the ones that were in it last year and the ones that are in it this year, they kind of have that unwritten responsibility on each other. And that's the great thing about winning. That it creates an unbelievable amount of responsibility to everybody, And the only thing we got to, protect there. I'm not going to judge this year's team against last year's team. That's not what you do. The guys that were on our team last year, they all going to have different roles and different responsibilities. So it's my job to help them grow into those roles and responsibilities. It's my job, our team's job, our coach's job to help them improve. And then the new guys, that's where sometimes you deal with a little residue effect is they show up, and because last year's team won, they think that they have something to do with that. And so you got to deal with that with the guys that kind of fall under that. But the guys have been great. It's a fun team. Unbelievable spirit. Unbelievable spirit. I've been on the older guys. And funny, when I say older, I'm talking about Hassani and Mike included in that group, and they've only been through it for 1 year. But I've been on them about our leadership has to be a little bit better. All the older guys. I'm not saying it's bad. It just needs to be a little better. But there's an enthusiasm within our team right now that's, last year's team winning has a lot to do with that. But it's fun. It's fun. Fun group of guys.
Frank, it would seem that the biggest question around this team is the guard play. Who do you expect to possibly step up and be your starting guards? I know it's early, but who are you counting on? What do you perceive? What do you expect to happen there?
I got no idea who's going to start. None. Hassani Gravett needs to be better. And if you follow my career, players their second year get a lot better than they were their first year. That's pretty consistent throughout my career with players. So he's in a much better place right now as a player. Corey Holden's a real good player. He's about a week away from being fully cleared to just be 100%, let's roll. He does a lot of stuff in practice right now, but we're still, he went through a major knee situation there, and it's not that it was two of them. When he got here, he had a situation, and then it got hurt, and it got fixed, but Corey can really play. Having him around last year allowed me to understand him, and I think it allowed him to understand me. He and I are in a real good place as people. Now he's got to get back on the floor and do what he loves to do, which is play, and he's pretty good at it. Outside of that, everyone else is new, ain't it? Don't underestimate the experiences of Frank Booker. When we read his resume, we see that he came from Florida Atlantic, and that creates a certain perception for people who are not paying attention. He was a leading scorer off the bench in the NCAA tournament for a Sweet 16 team in Oklahoma. Frank has been pretty good. I liked him a lot out of high school. I didn't think we had a place for him on our team then because we had so many first-year guys. It wasn't fair. But I like Frank, and he can really shoot the ball. David Beatty is as competitive a kid as I've probably been around. I mean, he is wired to go all the time. Justin Minaya is for a kid his size, he's a lot better defensively than I thought he was going to be on the perimeter. And he's an aggressive player. He's good. Him and Ibrahim they're gonna be fun to watch here for the next 4 years. They're big and they're talented and they're competitive. Wesley, who's the last young man we took. Wesley, we've all known him from his high school days in New York. Typical New York City kid, very confident. Here's what I've learned about all those guards in the short period. They retain. Like when you're in the middle of a practice and you pull one to the side and you said, hey, you went left, you should have gone right. When they go back out there, they're able to take what you said and incorporate it into the next repetition. And that's huge because that's timeout game situation. You're in a timeout and you tell them, hey, we're running such and such to the left, let's run it to the right. When kids can't embrace that, it's hard to make in-game adjustments. Those guys, they're good there. So I think I've rattled everyone off for you there. Could be wrong. But that's trying to give you a nutshell, so many new guys of what I'm seeing right now.
You touched on leadership just a minute ago, but who are some of the first-year guys who may be able to take on some of that? And also, any of the returning players, have you realized any of them kind of retaining what Sendarius and Justin and some of those guys brought last year from a leadership standpoint?
Yeah. Coach Sar's taken a big step forward in that department. Him and Hassani, we've put them in different leadership councils within our own campus and the SEC because those things are important to them. and they want to take that next step. So them being around other people, their age, their peers, they're interested in becoming better leaders. It's going to be a real good thing for them. They've both taken an initiative. Chris Silva is just loves the responsibility of being a good player. He brings. Some people lead with what they say. Chris Silva leads with the enthusiasm that he brings every single day to everything we do. And you know, that's why there's different ways of doing it. Dwayne Notice didn't say a lot, but he led through his character. He led through his convictions. People had to follow that. You know, so these guys are all trying to figure that out right now. That's what I'm telling you. I'm pressuring them a little bit, just because there's a sense of urgency, because more on me than them, because I've never been through it with them in that role. So I'm trying to pressure them so I can see how they're going to handle things a little quicker, so I can help them better. You know, I've been through it with Sin and Dwayne and those guys for so long, I knew how they're going to handle every situation. So I was comfortable there. I'm uncomfortable because of some of the unknown, not because they're not going to do it the right way. So I'm pressuring them so I get a better feel for them. I don't know if that makes sense. It's kind of the stuff that my brain kind of gets warped on sometimes.
Coach, kind of building off what you just said, like not from just you understanding them and what roles they can handle, just from a chemistry standpoint with so many new faces and sort of that cohesiveness. When you see a team like this that has the new pieces come together, is it something that there's no tangible date, you just kind of see it grow when it grows?
Yeah, I as much as I like the team, there's some things that I'm not going to learn about them until we start playing games. And anytime you have youth, as a coach, your biggest concern, I don't think you ever have fear. If you have fear, you don't belong in it. Let me rephrase that. We all have fear, okay? But the fear is not of winning and losing, okay? The only times that you have concern is that with a team that has so many new parts, if you don't win early, how that impacts confidence moving forward. That's the concern that we go through. But as to who they are, who they want to be, their work ethic, their enthusiasm, they get along real good. For a team that has so many new faces, they enjoy being around each other. My bosses have done something that we never had here. You know, they created the old Coliseum. Now it's our practice facility. I think all of you have been in there at one point or another. My offices are in that building. For them to get in there, they have to walk by. Our guys just stay in the gym. I'm not allowed on the court while they're shooting balls, but they're in there all day, all night. You know, it's fun. I can tell you this, 5 years ago, 3 years ago, that wasn't the case because we didn't have a practice facility. Now that we have one, it's funny. Kids don't hang out. They actually go in the gym and shoot balls. You know, I told Ray the other day in a joking way, I said, you know, crazy how it works. You work your tail off to raise the money to get us a practice facility. We win 51 games over 2 years, and Don wins a national championship. Funny how that works. Funny how that works.
Dave?
Frank, is it possible that Rakim returns and plays this season?
Listen, I get it, man. He's my dude, okay? I love that kid. He's not on our team. I'm not going to speak about him. The day that you see him on our roster, I will be more than happy to speak to you about him right now. It's, you know, I got numerous friends in my life that got issues that you guys never asked me about. He's not on our team right now. He's not on our roster. You want to check my phone? You guys ask for a FOI, you'll see how many times his number's on my phone. I can tell you whose numbers are not on there, but you can figure out, Rakim, how much I speak to him. But you know, you guys know, I don't want to make a circus out of press conferences and all that. I don't want to always give you the same answer. When he's on the team, you'll see him on the roster, and I will be more than happy to speak to you about all that.
And Frank, just looking at the point guard situation, is there one guy that you're looking at right now saying, I want you to handle the ball a lot? Would that be Gravett? Would that be one of the new guys?
It's one of the reasons I pushed Fig the heck out of here and hired Chuck Martin. You know, Chuck was a real good point guard in his playing days. Fig stunk, so we got rid of Fig. We brought in a guy that's pretty good at the point, and, you know. We recruited Hassani to be a point guard. We had other guys that were point guards last year, and he was trying to figure out what I want for point guards, and we had other guys that already understood, and he can play off the ball. So he learned playing off the ball, but we recruited him to be a point guard. Corey Holden's been a point guard his whole career. He's never played anything but point. Part of my challenge with him when I recruited him was to convince him, like, Corey, you're real good with the ball in your hands. I got to teach you how to play without the ball in your hands, because that's how you have to understand how to play. Wes, same thing. Wes knows how to play with that ball in his hands. You know, with him, it's him understanding what we do. You know, the difference, here's the biggest difference with Wes, and if I would have brought in a freshman here in the summer. Wes has been through it. Wes understands there's only so many days left in his college career. So he's more prepared and willing to handle instruction and structure. Young kids don't understand that yet and don't have that sense of urgency to learn because their senior year is so far away. Wes has really, really learned a lot, given the fact that he didn't start here till like 2 days after the first day of class. So it's, I off the top of my head, those three guys, I can tell you I'm very comfortable with. David Beatty, in a pinch, can play point. David, to give you, I'm not saying this is who he is, but he would play point like Russell Westbrook plays point. Like, I'm coming at you, good luck. That's how David plays the game. But if you need to play him at the point, he can do it too.
You mentioned Corey. Is there anybody else who are dealing with any kind of little injury things? And also from the returning guys, did anybody show back up who just looks physically different that really impressed you with their off-season work?
Yeah, Kotsar and Hassani physically are completely different. Kotsar's put on 22 pounds of lean muscle. I mean, physically, is a different human being. Hassani's body fat's down to 4%. And I'm a true believer that's the greatest indicator of athleticism is body fat. Him and Chris are probably our best two athletes, and no surprise, they're the two guys with the lowest body fat on our team. Gunner, that doesn't speak well for you and I. That puts you and I in a tough place. I know you have. It still puts us in a bad place because I've lost 30 pounds too. Those two guys, they all are in a better place. Corey Holden, Corey showed up here. His first day, he weighed like 160 pounds. Corey's close to 200 pounds right now. You know, it's a different human being than what he was when he got here. What was the second part of your question? You said the returning guys physically and
You mentioned Holden being a little banged up right now.
oh yeah, everyone, yes, everyone's healthy. Everyone's healthy.
Frank, on last year's team, it seemed like Dwayne's ability to guard the ball was unbelievable, and Sin's ability to just kind of take over at the moment was incredible. Are there people on this team now who you say, you know what, maybe with a little work, they're able to do this kind of stuff?
Yeah, it's and PJ's ability in his own way to make the play that needed to be made, whether it be on offense or defense. You know, that's the thing as a coach. When you're around players longer, you learn that it's not just exactly the way you want them to do things. They have the ability to do certain things in the spur of the moment in their own way. PJ had the ability to make guys think that he was beat on defense and yet he had them real good hands to figure out a way to create a loose ball. And that took time for me to learn. And it took time for him to learn how to play his way without fouling, and all that takes time. We got guys, David Beattie's a pit bull. I'm just telling you, if I had to be 19 again, I wouldn't want to fight him. David, he's a ball hawk. If he was a safety or a cornerback in football, he'd be one of those guys that somehow, I remember watching Ed Reed play. And every game, if there was a fumble, he came up with it. There's an interception, he got it. Interception in the middle of the field, he had it. Interception on the sideline, he got it. It was unbelievable. David's like that. David's a ball hawk. But defensively, Hassani's going to be better. Wes he just has to learn how to do it. No one's ever asked him to do it, but I think he's capable of guarding the ball. We're a lot faster than we were last year, collectively. We're a lot faster. The component that you just asked me about, Sindarius, that's the one that's the unknown. That's the one I'm not going to be able to figure out till we start playing games. In practice, it's all fun and games, and it's great. And then all of a sudden you turn on the lights and there's an opponent and there's referees and there's fans and some guys in that moment kind of not sure. Sin in that moment, ever since his freshman year, he just didn't make the winning play his freshman year, but he never shied away from that moment. Who's going to be that guy? That's what I don't know yet. That's some of the stuff that I don't have answers yet.
Sticking with things defensively, you mentioned the freshman's ability to kind of retain information. Have you sensed they've retained some of your defensive philosophies through the first weeks of practice, and is that normal for a freshman class?
Yeah, no, that's why they're all still in a good mood. We've yet to get into our defense. Our defense starts October 16th, so right now they're all shooting and having a good time, and I'm high-fiving them, and October 16th, then it's my baby starts getting taught, and then all of a sudden the mood changes a little bit, and then they're not happy with me, and I'm not happy with them, and they end up running on the treadmill a lot, and then there's a lot of unhappiness. We won't be chest bumping each other anymore, but we'll figure it out. Now, October 16th is when we start teaching our defense, but obviously when we're running offense in practice, guys have to defend. I like the aggression that we defend with. I like our athleticism. I like our aggression. And since they're retaining on offense, I think they'll be fine retaining on defense. But we start all that October 16th.
You mentioned there's a lot of stuff that you can't learn until you actually go out and play the games, but what kind of stuff can you learn about the guys, going through the next few weeks? And is there something exciting about that for a coach, seeing the steps people have made in the offseason, sort of learning just kind of the different stuff they can do now?
Yeah, it's there's a lot of stuff that you recruit these kids, and now you're on, like me, I'm on airplanes wherever I'm going, and I pull out my pad and I just start scribbling. And I start trying to envision a certain player, where we can play them out of, and what I call them actions. More often, our defense is pretty much one and the same. Okay, our defense is not going to fluctuate based on personnel. Our offense has to fluctuate based on personnel. And then you get on the court with them, and you kind of put them in those actions, and you're like, man, that didn't work real good. And then there's some other stuff that you think, like there were some screens I used to put Sindarius in last year. I didn't think anyone on our team was going to be any good at that, some form of a pin-down screen. And after individuals and 2 days of practice, David Beattie and Ibrahim Doumbia are real good in those screens. And I didn't think either one was going to be able to function in that cut. Justin Minaya, but I started recruiting. Chuck had known Justin for a long time. And I started recruiting Justin when Chuck and I started talking about the job. I went to see Justin play in the AAU circuit in April. I saw a young man that can make threes, that can pass the ball, that had good size, and was a willing defender. I didn't realize how much he enjoys physicality. So after 2 days of practice, that dude rebounds the ball, and if you run him into a cut into the post, he feels very comfortable in there. I asked Chuck, and Chuck said, well, Frank, he was the center on his high school team. So, so it's those kind of things. That's some of the good and things that I didn't think they can do, that some guys have shown me they can do, and there's some other things that after 2 practices and 3 team individuals that I have kind of gotten a feel for other guys. So, and that'll continue to evolve the more we practice, the more I understand them, and which at the end of the day is the biggest key. It's not so much it's not so much the learner understanding the teacher. The teacher needs to understand the learner, because if the teacher don't understand the learner, then you can't ever grab them. So I'm still trying to understand those guys so I can pull them in closer, so then I can get them more comfortable into what I'm saying and more comfortable in then telling me what they think, which is crucial, especially in today's day and age.
More?
It's the longest press conference in the history of mankind. You guys have come a long way since 3 years ago.
Frank, you've taken transfers before, you've taken fifth-year guys before. So with Booker and Meyers, have you had to talk to them about saying, I need you guys to be voices, or is that something that you prefer to let kind of develop throughout the season?
Yeah, they need to be who they are. What I do tell those guys when I recruit them is, I'm not recruiting you to be a freshman. And if you want me to treat you like a senior, you need to act like a senior. And that means you better come in here and spend a lot of time trying to allow me to understand you. You better not come in here and take a single day for granted. Those conversations were had with them. And like I tell them before they say we're in, if you're not going to come in here and work as hard as you can to make your senior year the most incredible year you've ever been a part of, don't come. Don't come in here and put me in a place where now I got to ruin your senior year by not playing you. And both of them are. That's how I kind of manage that. Booker is more raw. Wes is more quiet, like Dwayne. But both of them have. I judge new guys a lot by how the guys have been through it, kind of embrace them. And guys have allowed those 2 guys to express themselves how they express themselves. That tells me that they're very comfortable with who they are.
Frank, you touched on this a little bit, but can you sort of assess the ability of the young big guys to come in and back up Chris and Mike, and what you expect from those guys?
Yeah, I wasn't fair earlier. They asked me about returning players. Kadeem Geese, after 2 days of practice, he's been so much more productive than he was at any time last year. He's in a much better place this year as a player than he was last year. And he's changed his body, and he's put himself in a place where I feel very comfortable putting him in a game if we had a game tonight. At the end of last year, if I had to put him in a game, I was kind of searching to protect for a minute or two. Right now, if we had a game tonight, I'd be very comfortable putting him in a game. Felipe, we recruit these guys so we see them. Felipe is not the most athletic guy in the world, and I in my mind, I always said, okay, how is he going to make the adjustment to college basketball? Well, he's a lot more athletic than I gave him credit to be. He's not going to wow you with his jumping or his running, but somehow he always runs as fast as anybody. And his work ethic and his mind, the great equalizer for athleticism is the mind. Some guys are real athletic, some guys are not very athletic, but the guy that thinks the game can out-athlete the athlete. And Felipe has a great mind. So he knows where he belongs. He knows how to retain information. He's Also, talking about changing bodies, he's changed his body. And then Jason Cudd, Jason's lost 30 pounds since he's been here. Jason's going to be good. Oh, my God. He's got great hands, great footwork. He's not there yet, but, it's when he showed up in June, I basically said, okay, maybe his sophomore, junior year. And after watching him in practice, I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up helping us this year. He's how kids approach challenges and their work ethic. That tells me a lot about who they are. And he's approached the challenge of changing his body. Can you imagine that poor kid having to chase Chris Silva around and deal with Chris in the post every play, every day? He does. He doesn't go away. Doesn't mean he wins every battle, but he doesn't go away. He keeps coming. And he's lost all that weight. He's changed his body, and I'm happy. I like all our guys, but our big guys. I feel better about our big guys today than I did 1 year ago today. How about if I phrase it that way?
One question for John.
I guess this is a good transition about big guys. When Chris first got here, you said how raw he was as a basketball player. Fast forward 2 years going into his junior year, how has he changed in that he's gone from a guy who excelled in the open floor to now a guy in the post that can take on that responsibility?
Yeah, he's grown. If you think of us coming down the stretch last year, Sin, PJ, Dwayne got most of the credit, rightfully so. But they got a lot of their stuff done because of Chris's low post play, us being able to throw the ball in there to him and get positive plays out of it. And he continues to grow. I challenge him and Kotsar about they've embraced my asking them to learn how to play at the rim, and they've both have grown tremendously there. And now I'm asking them to learn how to play away from the rim. And they've both spent the whole summer getting better at those things. Chris and Mike right now are becoming real interchangeable for us. Similar to Carrera, similar to Mendogas. Sindarius was just a different level because he was in it for 4 years. It's those guys have come a long way. They've grown. They're shooting the three. Mike I understand him better now. I'm able. I shared this earlier, not today. This press conference seems like it was 2 weeks ago, but by the end of the year, I started having a better feel for what Mike was real good at. The problem is that by that time, we had, offensively I'm talking about, by that time the personality of our team had already been kind of created and distributed responsibility-wise. Sindarius, PJ, Dwayne, Chris, then Mike. Outside of a couple wrinkles here and there, I couldn't deviate from that order to all of a sudden incorporate something for Mike that late in the year. It just doesn't work that. You don't win a game because you got a great play. That works one time. That'll never work again in that game, the play. You work because of the structure you play in and the ability of your players to be aggressive to their strengths within the structure. And we created a structure that didn't really incorporate Mike's strengths because it was unknown the first half of the year. And as I started getting a feel for it, it was too late. Now, going into the season, we're incorporating his strengths into our structure. He's doing, you can see it in him. He's kind of, but now when he goes inside, like right now, I understand that Felipe and Cudd are freshmen. I get it. Mike looks real good around the basket because he learned how to do it. And he's finishing. He's rebounding, now he's playing with more confidence. So I like those two guys. Those two guys are, hopefully they stay healthy and out of foul trouble. Can I keep knocking for Chris's sake, but hopefully they stay healthy and out of foul trouble. I think those two guys will have real good years. Thank you, guys.